Good morning and welcome to Klingspor's Woodworking Shop Virtual Woodworking Extravaganza, our 21st annual. Today we are joined with Brian, Mr. Sedge himself from Festool Live. Brian, how are we doing this morning?
Woo!
I'd say we're going good. All right, well, we're going to hand it off to Mr. Sedge right up front so we can go ahead and get started.
What? I'm on?
You're
All
on, sir.
right. Hey, everybody. We are here at, I'm going to get all this correct, I hope. This is the Woodworking Extravaganza Klingspor. And I think you can go to woodworkingextravaganza.com to see all this. You probably are on there now. We're live at Festool HQ in Lebanon, Indiana. And we are so honored to be asked to kick this off. I said, you betcha, it's going to be wicked. I got all kinds of nice stuff planned to go, and we are live, so you're going to see me make a bunch of mistakes, so hang in there. All right, this is going to be running, today's the 18th, all the way through the 23rd. So, man, they got so much content planned for you folks. And don't forget, Klingspor is the place, baby. All right, so when we were asked to do this, I always think about when somebody says, hey, what's Festool? Like my name goes, what's Festool? And I go, and you'll hear me say, oh, it's a system of tools and accessories and consumables that's geared for the remodeler, the woodworker, the cabinet maker, the painter, and the furniture maker. And then all of a sudden someone goes, let me think that out. What do you mean by a system? So I have been privileged to be asked to talk about the Festool system with you folks this morning. And I'm going to go from simple to maybe a little more, not complicated, but, oh, I didn't know that worked with that. It's a series of integration, and it's not an ecosystem. That has to be organic. It's a system. It's an integrated system of tools, accessories, consumables. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so I like to boil it down to a few things, and I call them common threads. Now, I would always hear this when I first started with Festool a few years ago. I would hear, oh, it's the dust extractor. All the tools hook up to the dust extractor. Is that true? Yes. Okay, we have, I think, Big D, how many we have? Like 7 dust extractors, 7 or 8 dust extractors now? Okay, so that's one of those things you have to decide. Your folks at Klingspor can help you decide which dust extractor is right for your needs. It has to do with the bag size. But Chris, I want you to get in here so you can understand this. This is what we call the core of the system. This is our CT48 auto clean. Yes, it can work with all the tools. You got an adapter so you can work every single Festool tool with it. Designed working with the Planex because it's got the auto clean feature for that small particulate. All right. Now, the one thing here's a common thread that I'm going to go through the entire Festool system with you folks today, okay, is understanding we have a great dust extraction system for all our tools, but the key to it is we're never, ever going to stop bettering our systems. What the heck does that mean? You'll see what I'm talking about as I go through this. We're always innovating our tools. You know what? I'm going to just run over here because I want to grab something. Hang on, Chris, you can follow me over here. Okay. Speaking about innovation, as simple as this is known as the Sys Cart. Okay. Everybody's going, what's he talking about? Sys, S-Y-S. Short for what? System. This is our system cart. Since working for Festool, this has changed 3 times. Okay, we're always bettering our tools. And you're going to see all of this on here because, watch, I'll show you. I'm going to grab a Systainer, system container. Okay, check this out. This is our new Generation 3. Since I have been around this company, this is the 3rd generation of Systainers. It's because we listen to you, our customers, and you give us some of the most fantastic input. Okay, so the Systainer, I'm going out to a job site. Common thread, portability, mobility. I'm going to put it on here just like this. Check it out. I'm going to hook it up just like this, and I'm rocking and rolling out of the van. But I need another tool, so I'm going to grab this. Look, my TID 18, my cordless drill. Where do I put this? And you're going to see these 2 tabs right here. Remember, system container. I'm going to put it right on top, and look how they interlock. These go in and out of your van. They lock to the cart. And look, you could carry the whole daggone thing up the stairs. But one of the things we have seen over the years is this. I need to get something in the bottom sustainer. In the early iterations of the sustainer, you had all these daggone clips you had to undo, right? We listen to you. Look, I need to I take the T-lock and I lift it up and I can get to my paper just like that. So we're always listening, and that's the Sys Cart. Uh-oh. Ooh, the guys were kind of shaking because I think I knocked the light. All right. So back to the dust extractor. All right. Guess what's on top here? This is called the Sys Doc, the system dock. Guess what goes on top of your dust extractor? Guess what, everybody? See how it's a system? It locks right on there, and I could take this whole daggone thing onto the job site out of my van. So there you go. That's part of the Festool system. It's a common thread, the sustainer, as simple as it gets. So when somebody comes up to me and says, they say, hey, I like that track saw, but boy, is it expensive. And I look at them, I go, what's your time worth? And they look at me and I go, what do you mean? I go, what is your time worth? And that is the most important thing to understand nowadays. Okay. The Festool system incrementally, in small increments and sometimes large increments, will save you time. Going back to the sustainer, I have to look for paper, right? It's in a sustainer. It's right there on a job site. I have everything I need with my dust extractor. I don't have to clean up that much after, because all our tools, as you see, as I run them this morning, hook to our tools. So we capture the dust at the source, let alone by capturing at the source with our sanders. We're world renowned for all our sanders, and I'll go over the Rotex with you a little while. We don't have loft in the air. You know, that stuff that's flying up all over that you buy these expensive downdraft tables to whisk it away. We don't have that with the Festool system. We capture it at its source. So what always in your mind when you look at something, what's your time worth? And as I set up certain little demonstrations today and cuts and dominoes and sanding, think about what you do now in your shop or on the job site that's time consuming. And you'll see how the Festool system saves you that time overall. So it really isn't that expensive a system if you really look at it. Okay. So one of the things I always like to talk about when I'm talking about the track saw, I'm going to go right to it because the track saw, hang on a second, track. It's a saw that works on a track. We call them guide rails. We have different sizes. Okay, so when you get your track saw, you get and you buy it is it the plus? You get the plus, you get the track with it. Okay, it used to be automatically you just get the track with it or the guide rail. And everybody coming into training over the years would go, what else can I use my guide rail for? And guess what? Remember, you're buying something once. Other things work on the guide rail. A lot of people don't understand this. And as I'm going to make a cut with this in a few minutes, okay? But it's a guided cut. In other words, it's not you taking it. Let's go back to Shop 101. You have a table saw, right? Okay? And you know what's the problem with this? I don't hear people on the other end saying right. Okay, this is kind of fun. You're taking a large 4x8 sheet piece of plywood and you're taking it to the table saw. You're taking the wood to the saw. Guess what I'm doing here? I'm taking the saw to the wood. It can save you a ton of time, but it also can save your back. And always remember that the number one injury in any cabinet shop is a lower back injury, moving sheet goods around. So this Festool system is safe, but also it'll save you a ton of time. So what else works on the guide rail? And this is the thing that always boggles me when I talk to people out there is when I set this up, I can actually, and people used to come in here and see this. Oh, I didn't know that the routers work on the rail. See how the rail becomes a common thread? Okay. And as I'm doing this, I can do grooves. I can do fluting. I can do sliding dovetails. I can do dados, stop dados, mortises, anything you can imagine. So the router with the guide rail, and you combine it with the MFT3, you have a complete joinery system. There's so much the Festool system can do. And I will tell you right now, a lot of folks I have encountered over the years didn't know that the router works on the rail. And also, this is called a guide stop. All the system components, all the system routers, all have a guide stop except for the MFK 700. That's our trim router system. And that's a system within the system. Okay. I've been told I only have a half hour, maybe a little bit more today. So I could talk about the router for like 2 hours. I could talk about the Tracksaws for 2 hours. Check this out. See this? This is a separate base for the Carvex jigsaw system. Okay. And guess where this works? See that groove? That works on the system as well. And don't forget, everybody, all our tools have time-tested accessories and consumables. We got great Carvex blades for the Carvex. We got great sandpaper for the Rotex Sander and all our sanders. It's called Granite, but we have other flavors of that. We have our own saw blades for the Tracksaw. Okay, so I just want to point that out to you and always remember it because those are all tested by us at Festool. Okay, so what makes the Tracksaw so special? Well, for me, it keeps getting better and better and better and better. I originally in 2004 bought an ATF 55. I thought that was the cat's pajamas. Some guy went like this at the marine store, went like that, made a cut, and I went, "Oh, is that cool? The saw works on the track and it's guided. That's really neat." So I bought it, and then I went and started using. I went, "Oh, he didn't explain this, the splinter guide. He didn't explain I could connect rails. That person didn't explain this and this. I had blades to cut plastic. I had blades to cut aluminum. I had blades to do all kinds of stuff." So since then, TS55, TS55 REQ, and my favorite new saw, the TSC, C for cordless, 55, all right, KEB. Wow, that's too many letters in there, but I wanted to point it out because I thought we couldn't better it after the last one, but we did because we just came out with an anti-kickback system on here. But more importantly, the thickness of blade went down 0.4 millimeters. I know somebody who was just ripping some walnut for a shuffleboard out in Oregon, and he was telling me recently on a Festool Shop Talk that he freaked out. He has a regular TS55 corded, and the guys doing the build what did they do? They built that shuffleboard, and they whipped out the TSC 55, the brand new one, and he said, "My goodness, did it have a lot of oomph to it." And you don't think it's going to happen if you reduce it by 0.4 millimeters. It went from 2.2 to 1.8 millimeter curve. And is that math right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. Oh, it's too early on a Monday morning for all this math. Okay, all that metric stuff. But it's a significant difference.
Big difference.
It's wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick cut. Yeah, I have it up against my fence. I have repeatability here, okay, on my MFT table. I can do angle cuts and everything. But here's the kicker on this. I'm going to make a cut really quick, and I want you to see this. And the beauty of the Festool Tracksaw is anywhere I lay that track with this splinter guide, it cuts right on that line. So I'm going to take this, and I'll just do a quick lineup. I'll lock it in like this. These are our plug-it cords. You only need one cord. Works with all the Festool tools.
Except that
I told you I was going to make this up. Except when you're using cordless. Okay, let's see if I get this all hooked up here. I'm just going to go like this. Oh, it's cycled onto that one. Can you unplug that one?
Yep.
I usually have it. I apologize really quick. I have a Bluetooth battery on here. I have a Bluetooth module here, but my battery's hooked up to my dust extractor. I get too many tools in here. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on. Okay, and I am going to, this is a Bluetooth battery. Give me a second, Big D. I'm going to hit this button right here. We're always innovating. We just came out with Bluetooth 2 years ago. See how I do that now? Listen. Now I'm going to have... Ooh, that felt good. Now I'm going to have dust extraction. Okay. So I'm going to hook that up. That swivels. That was funny. I was going to plug it in. Woohoo! Okay. That's my outside splint again. But this is what I want. And Chris, make sure you get a good shot of this as I come in. I'm going to make this cut really quick. Oh! After I set the depth. Hey, everybody, check it out. I'll set the depth with you so you understand how to set depth. I'm going to take my saw and zero it out, and I'll bring my depth set up like this. And I don't need to know metric with this, but I'm just going to take it like that, set my depth while it's on the rail. Whew. I want to do a shout out really quick to my main man down in North Carolina. How you doing, Mr. Victory? You doing good? Am I okay with this? Good. Okay. So I'm going to make the cut. It's real simple. It's a simple pivot here. I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to make the cut. And I'm just going to set this right here. Okay. Now, this is what I want you to see. And this is what was not explained to me when I first bought my saw. Okay, check that out. There's not right in here, Chris. Get this. See that? This is veneer, and let's get that top veneer right there. I swear to God that gets. Oh, look, there it is, right there. Look, there's a void. It gets thinner every daggone week from the plywood manufacturer. This should be splintering, right? It's not. It should be chipping out. It's not. There's no tear out. Zero. Now, here's where I want to talk about the Festool system, because everybody thinks it's the blade. It's a 42-tooth blade. No, that 42-tooth blade, look, gives you that sidewall cut that's pristine. It's the guide rail with this splinter guide that is holding that veneer down as I'm cutting, because that tooth wants to rip it up. It's just not the saw, but it's the guide rail. Okay. And hopefully people understand that. Yes, the blade's fantastic. Yes, I have variable speed on the saw. Yes, it has constant speed under load. In other words, how many times and this is a huge time saver. The electronics inside here are revolutionary. Revolutionary, the blade spins. No, it's revolutionary, innovative, because the electronics monitor the speed of the blade as you're cutting, as it senses your feed rate, as it senses the density. So how many times have you ripped like maybe cherry or purple heart or maple and you've stalled in the cut? You get burning. With the Festool system, there's no burning. So it's a constant speed under load, and it's the electronics inside. And that's kind of I don't want to say the boring stuff. You want to know, am I going to cut splinter free? And am I going to get no burning? We could go on and on. I could describe all the electronics. I'm not going to. But remember, it's variable speed, and we have different blades for different materials, including cementitious product like Hattie board or concrete cap composite. Okay, so I want to make sure you understand that it's just not a wood cutting saw. We cut multiple materials with it. Whew. All right. So, okay, so I went from, I think, the heart of the system, the CT dust extractors, to one of our flagship tools right here. And I think hopefully I explained it properly. But I want to go into something as simple as this, because everybody wants to know what's so special about the Festool clamps. This is a common thread. Where does it work? Of course, it works on our MFT here. We have two versions, a screw clamp, okay, and what? An F-style screw clamp and this, but guess what else you can do? You can actually use it here, just like that. Now, here's the kicker on this. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. But on the guide rail, Okay, we have these neoprene strips. So when I put it on a piece of material with the weight of the saw, wherever I line it up, that's where it's going to cut, because that splinter guard is cut with that saw, so it lines up perfect, right? And you don't need clamps. But what if you're on a really slick, slippery surface? Check this out, everybody. That clamp, hello, works right on there like that to clamp it to the material, so no movement. And we got a series of clamps that allow you to do that for different applications. Okay, so once you start understanding and getting into the Festool system, we look at a bunch of different applications, and we look like, how can we make that safe, efficient, and dust-free with our system, the Festool system of tools and accessories and consumables? Okay, am I doing good? Oh my God. I can hear everybody right now. Man, that got sure long-winded. Thank you, Klingspor, again for having us. Okay, everybody. Now, woo! Let's talk about dust extraction, but let's talk about the Rotex Sander. All right. This here has been around since, I believe, 1976. What's that term that a lot of people often copied but never duplicated? That's kind of a slogan out there. It is so true. And I want to make sure you understand this, because this is the one-all beat-all sander. It's 150 millimeters, which is basically 6 inches diameter sander. And when somebody comes up to me, hey, I want a 5-inch, what's the difference between a 5-inch and a 6-inch? 33.5% more surface area on a 6-inch. So I would always say, instead of saying, what's your time worth? Do you like to sand? Okay. For me, when I bought my first Festool sander in my cabinet shop in Fort Lauderdale, I was blown away, because the guys at the dealer didn't explain it. They just knew I was becoming a Festool fanatic. And I said, I'll take that sander, that sander, that sander. And when I went back to my shop, I noticed something. Okay. Me and my business partner, Mikey, we would always go home at night before we sprayed the next day, because we wanted the dust to settle, right? Because when you're sanding, I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. This is how you control the loft or the dust in your shop when you use a Festool system. Here's what I'm getting at. See this light we have that Chris and Derek set up? Oh, by the way, let's get Big D over here. That's Big D on the board. We have Chris right here. He's holding the camera. That's our team at Festool Live. Hopefully you guys know what Festool Live is. Hey, this isn't cordless, so I got to hook it up.
That one you do need to plug in.
Oh my God, what a day. Hey, I hope everybody had a good weekend. Okay. So I think everybody out there knows or has used a random orbit. Okay. A random orbit, and I'm going to draw this out really quick. This is a nice piece of cherry. A random orbit. Okay. So you know the vibrating sanders, those are orbital. They vibrate like this. Okay, a random orbit is doing this, but the pad is also spinning. Okay, and guess what? That's what this mode is. On your Rotex, you see the tiny dots? That means it's in random orbit mode. But if I switch this, listen to this. Hopefully we get this. Did you hear that? Okay, that means there's a pin going in there. So it's doing a random orbit mode, okay? But at the same time, it's spinning. You know how you can stand down on a sander on a random orbit and stop the pad? With the Rotex, there's no doing that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to divide the board up like this, and I'm going to make some marks here, and then I'm going to do the same amount of marks right here, comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Okay, you getting that? Okay, so let's do random orbit really quick. Make sure my dust extract is up. It's on. Okay, so this is random orbit. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there's 10 passes on there, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in Rotex now. And boy, I always tell people, oh, by the way, I just want to let you know I have granite paper on here. This is fantastic. You'll see in a minute why this doesn't load. You have dust extraction on this stuff lasts a long time. And I got Granat 80. Okay. I'm going to put it on here. I'm going to put it on the bigger dots, which is in Rotex. And I'm going to go count it. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. That's roughly what? Twice as fast. Okay. Now, Rotex, everybody will ask, wow, Festool, do they have a belt sander here in North America? We do over in Europe, but we decided not to bring it here because if you've ever used a belt sander, you stand for tipping it and everything. With the Rotex sander, it's a perfect balance. It's very ergonomically correct to your form. You have better control is what I'm getting at. So we decided not to bring the belt sander over here. And also, this is as aggressive as a belt sander. Check this out. I'm going to take the dust extraction off. Whoop, whoop, whoop. See how I took that off? See that little green part right there? Just remember, usually the green parts mean something on the Festool system. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to just bear down on this. This is a little dark right here. Hopefully we can get this, Chris. Okay, and I'm going to let this sand. And I want you to notice, hopefully we're in there. I'm actually looking at the screen right now. Hopefully that is coming up. You'll see the dust, and you'll see it start to waft up. See that? Okay, I'm going to stand off. Okay, that right there is what a lot of people do if they don't have it to a dust extractor. Okay, now, this is important. By the way, that's how I used to sand. And as I'm looking, you'll see, you probably can't see it, there's little dust coming up. And guess what that dust is? That's a carcinogen going into your lungs. It's bad, bad. So if you hook it up to a dust extractor, a couple things. You'll sand the product, not more dust. But the other thing is, let's check out the paper. See how I'm starting to load? Okay, that's not good. You will glaze that paper, and you will have to, what? Switch more often. With the Festool system, you hook it to the dust extractor. Okay, I call this Festool Magic. Check it out. Okay, watch. See how that just cleans up that area? Okay, but the other thing is, let's look at the paper now. You keep that paper, those grits, fresh to cut. And as they break down, fracate, they start to what? You'll start to wear it, but you'll get less wearing because you're not sanding the dust, you're sanding product. So this is where I'll always say, what is your time worth? You don't have to clean it. You don't have to brush it on the floor and clean up afterwards. You are capturing that source, and you're eliminating that fine particulate floating up, okay, and then coming down. You don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to go out and buy one of those air purifiers or air scrubbers. Okay, you capture it at its source. You don't need a downdraft table. Man, I'm saving everybody money today. Festool, baby. All right. Hey, am I doing okay on time? Can I go one more?
Let's go for it.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm looking at a half hour up, and we're going to have a couple of questions answered for you guys out there.
Right.
Okay, so there's another tool out there that I want to. I thought, oh, we're done with this. This is like the best tool out there. What's up?
Are we good, Mike? To keep going for a little bit, or we got a hard stop?
No, you guys are good. Keep going. Flow.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Cool, man. I don't want to talk all day. All right. So I'm going to go over here and follow me, Chris. This tool here, somebody said the other day, boy, you're really known for the Festool Domino joiner. And I went, yeah, but still the Tracksaw is probably my favorite tool, just because of that cut that you get with it. But what's really nice about the Domino joiner, this came out in Europe in 2006, here in the States in 2007. It is a let me get my elevator pitch on this. It is a portable loose tenon joiner. What does that mean? In other words, instead of a traditional mortise and tenon where you cut a tenon, say, on your apron skirt and a mortise on your table leg, we cut two mortises and we put in this, which is called a Domino. And we have them in several sizes, and you'll see them right here. Okay? We have like 4x20s, 5x30s, which this is. Okay, it's a really simple system. It's a safe system to use. It's basically a router bit that is that's spinning at, I believe, around 25,000 RPM. Okay, and oscillating back and forth to create a mortise. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make a mortise with the DF500. DF500. Here's where I thought, oh, we won't be able to ever better this. By the way, we got killer accessories. I'm not going to go into all of them today, but I'm going to make a mortise with the 500, and we'll do a mited joint just like this. Okay, but check this out. This is the DF700. In other words, when we came out with this in 2007 here in the States, somebody said, what about a longer tenon? And guess what we came out with? And I believe it was 2013 we came out with the Domino XL. Okay, and look at these tenons. It's just not the thickness, but it's also the length. So you extend that long grain to long grain adhesion glue line. Okay, and by the way, I could talk for 5 days just on these two machines. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, this is revolutionary. It's probably the most innovative system I've ever used in woodworking. Okay, so let's take this over here. Let's take this. Let's grab a domino. And I want to show you, because when somebody says, what's so special about a domino joiner? I only have to do one joint, one woodworking joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip over here, and I'm going to grab my wrench. Okay, so I could show you a few things with this. I'm just going to set this up. We're going to use my vacuum clamp with this. Okay, so check this out. To check, this is a domino. It's 5 millimeters thick, 30 millimeters long. So everybody, let's do a little bit of metric. What's half of 30?
15.
Okay, so we have to set our depth, because I'm going to go 15 and 15 in each. Woo! Metric's so hard. So I'm going to set my depth right over here. And this is how you set it to 15. Give you a little domino training today. But I have to check, because that's a 5 millimeters thick, I have to check the bit. So I'm going to take it like this. I love that.
Ooh, the
Did that
pop.
come through?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to change the bit. See that? That's the arbor lock. I'm going to press it in. It goes into a hole just like this. I'm going to spin it off, and I'm going to get a 5 millimeter cutter. And where would I have that? Probably right in here. Nope. I got a 5 millimeter right in here. I'm going to spin it on. Now, when you put on a cutter, just snug it, because it'll ramp up and come on tight when you turn it on. Now, I'm going to set that down. This is your plate. This is your base. I got it at 90. I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn on my vac sys, my vacuum clamp, because I'm going to use that today. And I'm going to adhere it to my clamp, just like that, okay? And this is a vacuum clamp. But look, I need to switch out the pod for this material. So I'm going to pull this pin here. I'm going to open it up, spin it off. All right, and I'm going to get that new pod right here. Okay, and I think this one will work perfect. I'll put this on. Yep, that'll capture that 50 millimeter stock. And I'm going to lock it in just like this. Now, as I set this up, this is 20 millimeters thick. Actually, it's 18 millimeter, but I'm going to set the height of the plate to hit the face that I'm going to mark right here. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Just like this, okay? I've set my depth. I'm going to put a 5x30 in there. Okay, so let's go through it. When I put 20 in this window, Chris, come over here and get this. See this? I'm going to take my plate, and this is a gauge block, thickness gauge block. So 20 basically is the thickness of the material. I'm going to set it down and lock it in. I got my depth set. I'm going to do it in a tight setting. A future video, or you can go on Festool Live. I explained this knob right here. Okay, so what's the one thing that you want down by the river? I feel like Chris Farley sometimes. What's the one thing you want when you're putting a miter together? That's a long point. That's your short point. You want this perfectly level, and you want this long point to come in perfect, right? Okay, but there's a caveat to this, and I'll show you. Let me get this on here. Let me get this clamp just right. I'm going to swivel it so it's easy for me, just like that. And I got to hook. Look at this. One hose, one cord. It must be a system. Woo! Keeps that job site nice and clean and organized for you. remember, when you put a plug-it cord in, everybody, make sure it's a full quarter turn to lock it in. Okay, so I only marked the face of this, but check it out. Check this out. I don't have to make lines like I use with a biscuit joiner. I'm going to take that long point to long point, and I'm actually going to shoulder it right on there like that on that long point. So if I do them both tight, there's a nice caveat to that. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to make that mortise. And it's a nice steady plunge. I make sure that references the face. I plunge in line. And I'm going to release the pedal right here to release my piece. And I'm going to do this one. I'll just set it right there. Set that on there. I just want to swivel it over so you all can see this. And there you go. So let's see what we've accomplished here. So look at that mortise. Oh, wait a minute. Watch. No dust in there. It's amazing. No cleanup. Okay, I'm going to take that and put it in there just like that. And check this out, everybody. I'm going to bring it in and look at that long point to long point, and it's perfectly flush. But here's the caveat to this. You ready? I don't need any fancy clamps. Excuse me. I can use a couple of right angle clamps and clamp this up because it's a locked joint. I used both. Did both of them from long point, tight and tight. And hopefully that comes across on this Klingspor live today, that is the one-all beat-all joinery machine because it is a lock joint. And how many times have you done miters and it slip sliding away and creeping up on that miter? So there you go. I am so glad I had the opportunity to talk about the domino joiner. But one more thing. Remember I told you we came out with this in 2007? Okay. But we continue to innovate our system. One of the things that people don't realize is sometimes you build too big a cabinet, you got to get it somewhere through some doorways or some up a flight of stairs, and you can't get that huge pantry cabinet or double oven. You got to assemble it there. Or you're shipping it from Florida to California. You want to ship it flat, right? So 2 years ago, we came out with this system, whether a through panel or a right angle, okay, where this system is a system of knockdown fasteners, all done with either the 500 or for larger pieces, we have the larger connectors for the 700. So we continue to come out with innovative accessories and consumables for the Festool system. And by the way, it's going to continue for years and years and years. You should see this stuff coming out next year, the year after, the year after that, the year after that. So be prepared, baby, because the Festool system is going to continue to grow. Woo! Oh, woo, woo. Ric Flair, baby. All right. So do we have any questions? I know I went over, but I have a few minutes, I think, left to answer a question or two. If you guys have questions out there. Any coming through, Big D?
No, we're good.
We're good? Bill Victory, do you have any questions for me? Wow. I'm here, man. If you need questions, I got just about everything here.
You got it all covered pretty well. Now, is there anything on the dominoes that people need to know as far as the sizes go? Can the 700 do the smaller 4mm bit?
No, it cannot. The set. Okay, so the 500 will do 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10, where the 700 only does 8, 10, 12, and 14. The bits are not interchangeable. Okay, if we could have made it interchangeable, we would have, but there's too much swing in the 700. Prototypes were cracking the bits. So just, I'll leave it at that. I know it's tough sometimes. One of the big questions I got at a trade show out in Las Vegas, it was, I'm looking to buy my first domino. Which one should I get? And I will always ask the right question, which is, what do you build the majority of the time? just about everybody I spoke with out there bought a 500 because the number one thing is the length of tenon when it comes to a 700 because of glue line adhesion. Yeah, there's a couple that are thicker, but even if you double up, it's still not enough in that in those mortises. So you need the length. In other words, I'm building a big farm table. I'm building an interior or exterior door. So it's all, that's where the 700 really goes in and works perfect. And a lot of people over the years who bought, or early on, the early adopters bought a 500, they were going back to their other ways to do a longer tenon. And they were like yelling at us, come out with a larger one, come out with a larger one. And it's a no-brainer. But most people will probably walk right into a 500 if it's because a lot of people cabinetry, right, and small pieces of furniture. Also, chair makers are using the 500 versus the 7.
So it's okay to do angles then on a domino. It's real easy to make those angles for a chair.
Yes. Yep. Very much so. It's just working out a little bit of math. Understanding this with the domino joiner, when you have the right stuff hooked up, is the distance from here on the 500 to the center of the bit, which is right here. I'm going to open this up so you can see it, is 10 millimeters. So just understanding the projection of going into something and understanding and taking a quick measurement off of there, absolutely 100% it's easy for chair makers. And the funny thing is chair makers will come up to me and go, you know, it took me like 1 or 2 tries, but I nailed it, and you've saved me so much time. Instead of a traditional mortise and tenon or a traditional through tenon that I turned. So there's a lot to it. The craftsmen know how to work it out.
Well, very good. Look at that timing, Sedge. I'm telling you, you're right on time.
Woo!
Look at you go.
Man, you know what? I ought to do this for a living, huh?
So I wanted to tell you thank you because Chris, Eric, and myself here over at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop, we learned from you on the Festool system almost a decade ago.
It's been a while, very much.
So you're always enthusiastic, always entertaining, but yet you learn so much at the same time. So we just want to say thank you.
Thanks. I'm blushing a little. I don't know if you noticed. It's an easy formula. When you work for a company like Festool, it's really hard not to be enthusiastic. I said something a couple of minutes ago, and I'll end it with this. You haven't seen anything yet. You should see what's coming.
Cool.
And I don't think I can ever leave. I think I'll be here till I'm like 100 because I just love woodworking, and I love woodworking tools, and I love stuff that works. And the Festool system keeps getting great, just like Klingspor. So
thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, when Bill and Josh and Michael asked the 3 of us to do this, we went, heck yeah. Awesome. This is fun. We love doing it. So thank you again. We really appreciate everybody out there. Thank you for supporting the Festool system.
Absolutely. Can I tell one story that you did during our training that I tell everybody whenever they're like, if you haven't met him, this is how he is. This is so you guys had first come out with that Sys light. Okay. It was like an indestructible light. And you're telling us in this class, you're like this, I'm telling you guys, you anything other than a tractor trailer running over it will survive it. And then you're like, you know what? You don't believe me? Get up. And so we all get up, we walk outside, and we're in South Carolina. You chucked it across the parking lot. Then you were like, all right, hold on. And you ran full speed to go get it, came right back and turned it on and said, see, told you, it'll work just fine. Remember that?
Yeah, we make really durable tools.
I would say.
Our warranty says it all. I mean, think about it. By the way, that keeps getting better. And our service guys will love me talking about this. We had the great warranties every time I've been around this system. But I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, we now have an industrial wear and tear Okay, we're replacing brushes. It just got better, and it keeps getting better. And it's a full 3 years. You don't pay for any shipping. We take care of it for you. It's wicked. So thanks for bringing that up. And by the way, I did have a Sys light I went and grabbed once. I threw it out here in Lebanon. We had just had a really big gully washer, and I went down into the gully and grabbed it, and the Sys light went in there. And when I brought it back, it was blinking red. And I went, oh my God, I've never had it blink red. So I took it down to repair. I had submerged it in the gully in the water. So really funny is I sent it down to Russell. Russell brought it back 15 minutes later. He goes, Sedge, don't submerge it. And it was working again.
Nice.
So there you go.
Even better.
Thank you for that. I think everybody knows how much I love doing this stuff. It's hard not to. So thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sedge from Festool Tools. All righty. Well, next up with us is Eric from our Winston-Salem store. And Eric is going to be talking about, hold on one second. There we go. I want to get that. There we go. So Eric is going to be talking to us about this table that he has built using a lot of Festool products.
This is it was a labor of love, and from start to finish, it's been a Festool project. I'm not going to say I used nothing else, but primarily power tool wise, Festool start to finish. It is an interesting thing about the slab. Chris, there you go. The slab itself, if you're a U.S. history buff, is a gift from the country of France to James Madison in 1824. It was presented by the Marquis de Lafayette, who is, of course, the same Lafayette that fought with Washington in the Revolutionary War. So as soon as I saw this piece, our head lumber buyer, Paul, told me about this piece, told me the story, and I said, get it to me. I got to see it, got to do something with it. And I sat on this piece for about 6 months. I had all kinds of thoughts running through my mind. I knew it needed to be constitutional themed because Madison's nickname in the history books is the father of the Constitution. Not just the fourth president, but he also penned the Bill of Rights. So I had to do something. I knew I wanted inlay to be a part of this piece. I knew that I wanted to do We the People. I knew I didn't know what medium I was going to use at first. So I kind of started thinking colonially, historically wise. And I always come back to Paul Revere, his Midnight Ride, and honestly got to thinking about him being a coppersmith. So it kind of evolved into me doing my first metal work. And I knew I wanted the We the People to be copper. So that segment of the table that says We the People, to give you some perspective, the slab is about 7.5 feet long. The We the People is about 2 feet long. And the butterflies, which me personally, I'd kind of gotten over butterflies, but at the same time, then it hit me to do solid copper butterflies. And with some prodding from Brian, who I work with at the Winston-Salem location, he started talking to me about acid etching. And so over this summer, I taught myself acid etching. Each one of the butterflies, there's 10 of them, which represent the Bill of Rights since he penned those. And they have an abbreviated version of all first 10 amendments. And then each panel, if you look at the front of the table, you'll see the center panel down below. It's got 1776 and some revolutionary figures. And then on the inside, you'll also see the Liberty Bell, and you'll see the whole entire preamble. Then around the outside, you'll see the Supreme Court. On the back side is the White House, and the other side is the Capitol, symbolizing, obviously, the three branches of government that stemmed from establishing the Constitution. So, this whole thing, the slab started out approximately 3 inches thick. I used a Festool OF 2200 router and a homemade XY leveling system that, honestly, I was able to put a 5-foot by 10-foot leveling slab leveler on the Festool STM 800 mobile sawing station. I used that as the support, and after I got it leveled, that slab for the next 4.5 to 5 months sat on that mobile sawing table and didn't come off until I was ready to attach it to the base. I was able to easily manipulate, move it around the shop. I know that on more than one occasion, I exceeded the maximum weight limit that Festool says to use, because not only did I have the slab, I also had myself on top of the slab doing multiple things. That's an amazing accessory to throw in your shop. I cut the final size down with an HK 55. I used more than one sander for the final sanding. The rotary, the little Micro Pro rotary carver, I spent more hours than I care to remember in custom making stencils for doing the acid etching. Aura Mask was invaluable in doing that. The cut-saw bit you can see right beside the rotary carver. Diamond bits as well. I went through more router bits, cutting out the copper inlay than I care to remember. But actually, Amana is amazing with their O-flute bits. They're designed for plastic, but at the right speed and rate, you can even do some light metal work. It is a project that has really, I've got at least, I'd say, between 400 and 500 hours in it. I don't know exactly what it's going to happen with it, but I intend to sell it at some point. I used primary, not just because I'm a Klingspor employee, but a ton of abrasives in working through all the sanding aspects, all the buffing aspects, because I did use the Festool Surfix system to finish the table. makes easy work of producing a matte to flat finish on a piece of furniture or whatever project. I've never been a huge fan of gloss, even though it does give more protective quality than a matte or flat. But the oil and hard wax combo gives you an amazing, just very low sheen while really good protection as well. I used the domino for the joinery, all the floating panels, the floating copper panels. Those framework are assembled with the domino, the DF700 specifically. The center stretcher of the table actually uses the knockdown connectors, so the whole table can come apart if you need to transport it, because it probably weighs about 300 pounds. I used a lot more than what's on that bench, but that does give you a sampling of the mini tools that went into producing that table.
So, question for you. You said you had used abrasives. What was your sanding process? Like, what grits did you use?
I went from, with it being cedar, it actually sanded easily. I started with a PS36 paper, and I didn't have to do much because I used the Amana CNC spoiler bit to level it upon our CNC guru Chris Smith's recommendation. And it did do an amazing job. Started with about 60 and quickly knocked out any router marks. 100 grit, 150, then 220. After that, after doing the copper inlay, I had to carefully sand because I had metal in between an extremely soft wood. So that slowed down to more hand sanding so as not to eat away the wood quicker than what the metal's going to eat away. That was definitely a process. I also used our non-woven pads with buffing aspect. Those things are amazing with an oil and wax finish. Just trying to think of what else. That would probably be it for the sanding process.
Okay. And then I see that you have a spindle mounted Mac mop. So is that what you used on the live edge?
That's been my go-to for years now with doing live edge. People want to fuss and make that a big issue. It really doesn't need to be. Depending on how rough the texture is after you remove bark, sometimes I can go straight to a 180 and not have to do hardly anything. It takes no time to clean up an edge with that.
Now, I see that you had a lot of our PS36, the AZ Plus. Is that the main grit that you use, the grit grain material, or did you switch it up?
The only time I did anything besides PS36 was when I did some 320 sanding in between coats because PS36 doesn't go past 220.
Okay. But everything was done with the AZ.
Yes.
Now, what do you like about why did you choose the AZ Plus for this project?
It's been my go-to for years. I find it to be for me, it's been the longest lasting grit of anything. I really like it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Eric before we close this morning's session? So this is a Madison table.
Yes,
and right now,
James
where
Madison.
do you house this? Is this at the Winston-Salem store?
It's in my garage.
Did these be on display at the store? Or are you worried about children?
I'm afraid of my own children, much as all the other children that would come through the store.
No kidding. Well, thank you, Eric, very much for joining us
You're welcome.
today. This is the Woodworking Extravaganza, Klingspor's Woodworking Shop, the 21st annual virtual Woodworking Extravaganza. I'm Mike Z. We'll join you back here at 1 o'clock. We have Nick from Klingspor Abrasives, and we're going to be talking about Woodworking Abrasives 101. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you at 1 o'clock.